The number that matters most to your retirement just changed. Not by a little. Not in a way that is easy to ignore. The official government report released on June 9th moved the Social Security depletion deadline forward again. And a second report that dropped this week on inflation is already reshaping what your monthly check could look like, starting in January of 2027. Both of these developments landed within days of each other. Neither one got the full attention it deserved in the national news. And if no one has walked you through what they actually mean for your specific situation, that changes right now. My name is Helen Carter, and this is the Senior Rulebook. This channel exists for one reason: to make sure that the rules that govern your money, your benefits, and your retirement are explained clearly, accurately, and in time for you to actually do something about them. If that is why you are here, subscribe now and turn on your notifications. Because what we cover on this channel is exactly the kind of thing that affects your monthly income before most people ever hear about it. Stay with me through this video, because the second half contains something that the coverage of this week's news almost universally missed. There is a direct connection between the law that was supposed to help seniors last year and why the depletion clock just moved forward. Once you understand that connection, the whole picture comes into focus, and at the end, I will tell you exactly what to check, what to do, and what to hold off on until October. Let us start with the Trustees Report, because that is the foundation of everything else. Every year, the Social Security Board of Trustees releases what is called the Annual Report to Congress. This is the official, government-published financial health check for the Social Security system. It is not an opinion piece. It is not a political document. It is the program's own accountants and actuaries laying out the numbers in black and white and telling Congress and the American public how long the money will last under current law. The 2026 report was released on June 9th, and it contains a finding that every person receiving Social Security or planning to receive it needs to understand. The Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which is the specific fund that pays retirement benefits and survivor benefits, is now projected to be depleted in the fourth quarter of 2032. That is 1 quarter earlier than what last year's report projected. It is now the second consecutive year that this deadline has moved in the wrong direction. Here is what this means in plain English. Social Security does not work like a personal savings account, where your money sits in a vault with your name on it. The program collects payroll taxes from current workers and uses that income to pay current beneficiaries. When the payroll tax income coming in is less than the benefits going out, the program draws from reserve funds, which are the trust funds. The OASI Trust Fund holds those reserves. When the trustees say the fund will be depleted in 2032, they do not mean Social Security disappears. They mean the reserve cushion runs out. After that point, the program would be operating entirely on incoming payroll tax revenue, and that revenue alone is only projected to cover 78% of scheduled benefits at that time. 78%, which means, under current law, payable OASI benefits would be limited to about 78% of scheduled benefits after reserve depletion. Not just new claimants, not just wealthy retirees. Every person receiving Social Security retirement or survivor benefits. Think about what that means in real numbers. If you are currently receiving $2,000 a month, a 22% reduction would take your check to $1,560. That is $440 gone every single month. For someone receiving $1,500, that reduction is $330 per month. For someone receiving $2,500, it is $550 per month. These are not projections about what might happen to someone you do not know. This is the mathematically projected outcome of congressional inaction, and the deadline is now under 7 years away. Now, before we go any further, I want to be direct about something that matters. Nothing changes today. Nothing changes next month. The 2026 annual report from the Social Security Administration's own trustees confirms that the combined trust funds hold $2.56 trillion in reserves as of the end of 2025. That is real money. The program can pay full scheduled benefits for now. This is not an emergency requiring you to call SSA tomorrow or change your benefits immediately. What this is information you need to hold in your mind as you watch how Congress handles the next several years. Because a potential 22% benefit shortfall is not a theoretical worst-case scenario cooked up by someone with a political agenda. It is the statute. It is the law as written. If the trust fund runs out and Congress has not acted, payable benefits are limited by the revenue available at that time. This is where the story gets more complicated, and this is the part that most news coverage this week skimped on. Why did the depletion date move forward again? The trustees' report is specific about this. One of the primary drivers was legislation signed into law on July 4th of last year. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which is the official name of that legislation, contained a provision that gave seniors a new additional tax deduction of $6,000. That deduction phases out for individuals with modified, adjusted gross income above $75,000 or above $150,000 for married couples filing jointly. It is available from 2025 through 2028. Now, you may be thinking, that sounds helpful, and in terms of your annual tax bill, it can be. The IRS confirmed that seniors 65 and older may claim this deduction in addition to the existing senior deduction already in law. The Council of Economic Advisors estimated that under the new law, approximately 88% of older adults receiving Social Security benefits will pay no federal income taxes on those benefits. That is a real benefit for many people on fixed incomes. But here is the part that has a direct cost to Social Security's financial health, and the trustees explained this explicitly in the report. When seniors pay federal income taxes on their Social Security benefits, a portion of those taxes flows back into the Social Security Trust Funds. That is how the tax on benefits is structured by law. When the legislation reduced how much income tax seniors pay on their benefits, it also reduced the revenue flowing back into the trust fund. The Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimated that this change lowers revenue to the trust funds by approximately $30 billion per year. $30 billion per year less coming in. Every year. That is what accelerated the depletion date. So the short-term benefit to individual seniors who qualify for the new deduction is real, but it came at a cost that the whole program is now absorbing. This is not an opinion. This is the official analysis from the program's own trustees and from multiple nonpartisan budget organizations. This is where many seniors feel caught between two things that are both true at the same time. The deduction may have helped you personally in the short term, and it may make the long-term situation harder for everyone, including you, if Congress does not find a way to restore that revenue or reduce the shortfall through other means. The important thing is not to panic. The important thing is to understand why this happened, because that tells you what to watch for in the political debates that will dominate the next 4 to 5 years as that 2032 deadline grows closer. Now let us talk about what this means if you have not yet claimed Social Security. If you are approaching the age at which you can claim and you have been weighing the decision of when to file, this report adds one more factor to that calculation. Claiming earlier locks you in at a lower monthly benefit amount for life. Your base benefit is reduced for each month you claim before your full retirement age, which is 67 for anyone born in 1960 or later. On the other hand, waiting until 70 increases your benefit by approximately 8% per year beyond your full retirement age. So waiting from 67 to 70 can increase your monthly payment by roughly 24%. Here is what the 2032 timeline introduces into that decision. If you claim at 62, your benefit is permanently lower, and future program-wide reductions could still affect you if Congress does nothing before trust funds run short. If you wait until 67 or 70, your monthly check is higher, but the same 2032 funding risk would still apply to that larger scheduled benefit amount. Neither path is clearly right for everyone. It depends on your health, your other income sources, your spouse's situation, and your own assessment of what Congress will do in the next 6 years. What I can tell you is that this decision deserves more thought than it would have without this week's report. If you have not already sat down with a financial planner or Social Security advisor to walk through your personal numbers, this would be a good time to do that. Here is something else worth understanding. The depletion date we have been discussing applies to the OASI Trust Fund specifically, which covers retirement and survivor benefits. The Social Security Disability Insurance Trust Fund, known as the DI Fund, is in much stronger shape. The trustees project it will remain solvent through the end of the full 75-year projection period. If you receive disability benefits, your fund is not under the same pressure. For survivors receiving benefits, you are in the OASI system. The 2032 deadline applies to your benefits in the same way it applies to retirees. Now let us move to the second major development this week. And this one is a mix of news that feels good on the surface, but requires a clear explanation of what it actually means for your budget. On Wednesday, June 10th, new inflation data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics was released for the month of May. That data shows that the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, which is the specific index used to calculate your annual Social Security cost of living adjustment, rose 4.4% over the past 12 months as of May. That is the highest reading in 3 years. And because of that number, analysts who track Social Security COLA projections updated their estimates significantly. Mary Johnson, an independent Social Security and Medicare policy analyst who has tracked COLA calculations for decades, raised her estimate for the 2027 COLA to 4.7% this week. She also noted there is a real possibility it could climb even higher as more data comes in, particularly if energy prices continue rising. The Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan senior advocacy organization, is currently projecting a 2027 COLA of 3.8%. Both estimates represent a significant jump from this year's COLA, which was 2.8%. In January 2026, that 2.8% adjustment added approximately $56 to the average monthly benefit. At a 3.8% COLA for 2027, the average monthly benefit increase would be roughly $77. At 4.7%, it would be closer to $98. For someone receiving $2,500 per month, a 4.7% adjustment would add about $117. For someone receiving $1,500, it would add around $70. That is real money, and I do not want to understate that. But here is the part that matters as much as the dollar amount, and this is where I want you to pay close attention. A higher COLA means prices are rising faster. The COLA does not create more purchasing power. It tries to preserve the purchasing power you already have, and right now it is not keeping pace. Mary Johnson estimates that at current May inflation levels, it would actually cost the average Social Security recipient about $94 more per month to maintain the same purchasing power they had 1 year ago. The 2.8% COLA that took effect in January added $56. The actual cost of living increased by $94. That $38 gap has been quietly eroding seniors' real purchasing power every single month this year. A higher 2027 COLA narrows that gap. It does not eliminate it unless inflation cools significantly between now and the fall. And this brings us to something important about how the COLA actually works, because I hear confusion about this all the time. The official 2027 COLA will not be announced until mid-October of this year. The Social Security Administration calculates the adjustment by averaging the CPI-W for the months of July, August, and September, and comparing that average to the same 3 months from the prior year. We are currently in June. That means the July, August, and September CPI-W readings, rather than today's early estimates, will be what officially determines the final number. What this means practically is that the 3.8 to 4.7% range we are hearing right now is an estimate based on available data. It is a directional signal that the trajectory is upward compared to last year, but it is not the final number. If energy prices stabilize over the summer, the COLA could come in closer to 3.8%. If geopolitical pressures continue to push gasoline and utility prices higher, it could land at 4.7% or above. Let me give you an example of how this plays out in real life. Think of a retired postal worker from Dayton, Ohio, named Gerald, who receives $1,920 per month from Social Security. That is his primary income. His Medicare Part B premium, which is deducted directly from his Social Security check, is $202.90 per month in 2026. So his actual take-home Social Security is about $1,717 per month. His grocery bill has gone up. His utility costs have gone up. His prescription costs have gone up. The 2026 COLA added about $54 to his gross benefit, but Medicare Part B premiums also increased this year, which offset a portion of that, and his grocery costs have risen more than the COLA covered. If the 2027 COLA comes in at 4.7%, Gerald's gross benefit goes up by approximately $90. Whether that actually helps his budget depends on whether Medicare Part B premiums increase again for 2027, and whether his out-of-pocket costs for prescriptions and groceries rise further. This is the structural tension that millions of seniors on fixed incomes are navigating. A bigger COLA number in the headline does not automatically mean more money in your pocket at the end of the month. You have to factor in what is being taken out at the same time. According to a survey released this week by the Senior Citizens League, 44% of retirees, which is approximately 24.8 million Americans, now depend on Social Security for 100% of their income. That number was 39% just 1 year ago. That increase tells you something important. More and more people are finding that their savings, their pensions, or their other income sources are no longer sufficient on their own. Social Security has become the whole floor, not just part of it. When the whole floor is Social Security, a 22% shortfall in 2032 is not a numbers problem. It is a survival problem. And a COLA that does not fully offset rising costs is not a policy disagreement. It is money your household does not have. I want to spend a moment on what Congress has and has not done, because this is something you will be hearing about constantly between now and 2032, and you deserve to hear it straight. Congress has known about this funding shortfall for decades. The trustees have issued warnings every single year. Multiple proposals have been put forward to address it, ranging from increasing the payroll tax rate to lifting the cap on earnings subject to the Social Security tax to adjusting the benefit formula for higher earners to gradually raising the full retirement age. None of those proposals have passed. Organizations such as the Bipartisan Policy Center and the American Academy of Actuaries have warned that the longer Congress waits to act, the harder, faster, and more disruptive the eventual solution will likely need to be overall. Small adjustments made years in advance are much less painful than large cuts made at the last minute under deadline pressure. What happened this past week is that the window for gradual, manageable reform officially got 6 months shorter for the second year in a row. Whether Congress acts and how is ultimately a political question that will be resolved through elections and legislation. What you can do is understand the stakes, follow what is being proposed, and make sure that the people who represent you in Washington know that this issue matters to you. Now let me bring this together into the specific things you should actually do and check. If you are currently receiving Social Security, you do not need to contact SSA, change your banking information, or make any modifications to your benefit today. The program can pay full scheduled benefits for now. What you should do is watch for the official 2027 COLA announcement in mid-October of this year. That is when the Social Security Administration will publish the confirmed adjustment. You will see it reflected in your January 2027 payment. If you receive Medicare and Social Security together, also watch for the announcement of the 2027 Medicare Part B premium, which typically comes in November. That premium is deducted from your Social Security benefit. If the COLA increase is largely absorbed by a higher Part B premium, your net monthly check may not increase as much as the headline COLA number suggests. If you have not yet claimed Social Security, this is a good time to review your personal claiming strategy in light of the 2032 depletion timeline. You can log into your personal My Social Security account at ssa.gov to see your projected benefit estimates at ages 62, 67, and 70. If you have not created that account yet, it is free and takes about 10 minutes. It shows your full earnings history, your projected benefit amounts, and allows you to manage your information directly. That is the place to start. If you are a survivor receiving benefits on a deceased spouse's record, your benefits are in the OASI system, and the 2032 timeline applies to you the same way it applies to retired workers. If you are uncertain about whether you are receiving the maximum survivor benefit available to you, that is worth a direct conversation with SSA or with a Social Security advisor who can pull your specific record. If you have an income near the thresholds for the new senior tax deduction from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which is $75,000 for individuals or $150,000 for married couples filing jointly, you may want to speak with a tax professional about whether you qualify and how it affects your 2025 filing and forward. Remember that deduction is available from 2025 through 2028. It is not permanent. One final thing to hold on to. The news this week was genuinely significant. The depletion deadline moving forward is real. The COLA trending higher is real. The gap between what the adjustment covers and what inflation is actually costing seniors is real. None of that should be minimized. But the purpose of understanding these facts is not to feel helpless. It is to feel informed. Knowing that a problem exists and knowing the timeline is how you plan for it, talk to your representatives about it and make better decisions about your own retirement. That is what the Senior Rulebook is for. If someone you know depends on Social Security, whether it is a parent, a spouse, an older neighbor, or a friend who is planning for retirement, please share this video with them. These are the numbers they need to understand. This is the context that is missing from most of what they will see in the news. And if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please do that now. We cover Social Security, Medicare, IRS rules, senior benefits, banking rights, and government policy changes that affect people 60 and older in plain English as the news happens. This week brought two significant stories. There will be more. Subscribe so you do not miss them. I am Helen Carter. This is the Senior Rulebook. Stay informed and take care of yourself.